Welcome to Leaders with Lessons. I'm your host, Shaun Walsh, where I talk with senior leaders, founders, and decision makers about the realities of leading change, tech transformation, and personal growth. The show is brought to you by the Get It Done framework. It's about helping leaders who've got no shortage of options, especially around tech and business change, get clear on which direction is actually worth backing before they commit or continue with what they're working on. The weigh-in is the Opportunity Explorer, a 1 hour session with a senior pair of eyes. No presentation or business case needed, just a conversation. You come away with a recommended way forward, the real risk named, and a clear next move. If that sounds useful right now, the link will be in the show notes. But more importantly, on today's show, our guest is Jules. Jules, welcome to the conversation. Tell us a bit about you and the work that you do.
Thanks for having me, Shaun. It's lovely to be here. So my name is Jules Sharples. I'm Head of Change for coeo UK, which is a leading collection group in financial services. And we've also just launched Kai Technologies, which is our tech solutions branch. I joined coeo UK in January 2025, so it's been 19 months now, to
Yeah.
lead a brand new change function being introduced at the organisation. And it was all about building the governance and change management framework to help reduce change friction and maximise the pace of our change. At the moment, I'm heavily focused on some key technology changes for the broader coeo group across Europe. And
Yeah.
our UK tech team, that consists of web developers, AI engineers, and we're in the process of merging with the Netherlands team to become a team of around 30 or 40. Before joining coeo, I spent 2 years in enforcement for Capita and then the divested business or Mexis Group. And before that, it was utilities. I worked in utilities for 20 years across change and project management, testing, training, and heading up customer service. So all heavily regulated industries.
Wow, fantastic. That's a huge range and a breadth of experience. What we're hearing from it is really centered around change. And the point you made around friction there and the frameworks. What have you learned about the application of that over the
I
years?
think I've spent most of my career helping organisations change, and one of the things I've become very convinced of is that we've got a slightly strange relationship with change. So
Okay.
we spend enormous amounts of time getting people through a transformation, through that transition, and then
Yeah.
we'll congratulate ourselves when everything becomes stable again. Um, but I actually think that's the wrong destination. So if you take Kurt Lewin's model, the unfreeze, change and then refreeze, that
Okay.
doesn't align with the way I work. So I want organisations to stay a bit slushy. I call it staying slushy. So you're stable enough to function, but you're flexible enough to keep adapting. And I think that's one of the key takeaways for change management. Absolutely. And I think that's become really interesting with the AI piece,
Yeah.
because the pace of technological change is now so fast that I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where we finish that transformation piece at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I love that phrase, stay slushy.
Yeah,
It's, some real like personal grounding within
yeah.
that from being able to recognize, I suppose, where you've come from within a change, but then perhaps not assuming it's done or that's right, that's it now. So staying slushy, it sounds like it gives you that space and maybe that mental permission to be able to keep adapting so you move and reform onto the next thing.
100%. I mean, if you successfully refreeze an organization as well, particularly around today's AI implementations,
Yeah.
you've potentially already built tomorrow's legacy system. So that's
Mm.
the danger. You've got to, as I say, you've got to stay slushy, as I say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a useful analogy. So it allows
Yeah,
you to reform quicker rather than having to kick off that cycle again of defrosting
yeah,
and then
defrosting.
reforming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about
Yeah.
adaptive stability, isn't it?
Yeah, adaptive stability. I do think we're in this age of adaptation. You mentioned there with the AI or whatever else is coming. I I nod to this on the podcast and then back out of it as quickly as I can. And then I'm going to do the same here. So like AI, but then, on the horizon or even here, quantum computing, which is just going to accelerate things further. What does that mean for data? Certainly within regulated industries. And then how do we keep adapting? And the human element of that, I think, is is almost my lifeboat. It's where my mind goes to with it. Perhaps to counter some existential overwhelm from all the tech changes, but keeping humans involved with it.
Yeah,
And I'm really drawn to that stay slushy phrase because it keeps it malleable
it
rather
does.
than projecting forward a fixed state on when something's finished.
Yeah. It's not permanent chaos. I think people can feel about stay slushy, oh, you're just constantly in the chaos. But no,
Mm.
it's creating an organization that's stable enough to operate, but fluid enough to adapt.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And how do you do that within your own
well,
areas of
I mean,
responsibility?
uh, as a business, coeo is well known for being a technology leading firm,
Yeah.
for using AI, data analytics, digital channels, and we use that to optimize our performance and contact rates. Um, but the difference between us and other AI embracers is that our operating model emphasizes empathetic communication, and we tailor our payment solutions over more traditional approaches. And we're absolutely about putting people first.
Yeah.
So on top of our AI suite of tools, so quality scorecarding, that's doing 100% of our call scorecarding at the moment. So that means the QA agents, the trainers are spending that human connection time teaching people how to be better. And
Yeah.
our virtual agents, they're taking on the easy work streams so that our humans can work on the meaningful conversations with customers. Um, and I think personally for me, the way I use it is I find AI, while it can help with project management and planning side, it
Mm.
can't help with the true change management because that's always been about people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for example, if we consider, is it Trompenaar's iceberg, the culture, and we see what's above the iceberg and the depths below,
Yeah.
AI can see all of that above surface level. It's very good at that, and it can even
Yeah.
make assumptions and give you recommendations about what it believes is under the water, but it can't truly understand the reality of that. And you can only get that from speaking to people and making those connections and building trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I've tried to make sense of this within myself. Where I'm with it currently is when we're speaking to people, kind of sometimes through this format, which is digital, but more so, I think if you're in the room with people, there's a felt sense that we've picked up probably, for evolution for thousands of years that sits within the non-verbal and the way we communicate and share that space, and probably something in there about mirror neurons as well. And I think AI is getting very good at mimicking that, but keeping that human critical thinking and curiosity within the mix. I'm hopeful that, the iceberg analogy, but then the humans retain the capital on the depth of it and will always need to be involved with change. That's my hope. Anyway.
Think the better that we get at doing the work of getting as much as we can on paper for the AI to analyze,
Mm,
we'll get better at not repeating the same mistake. So,
mm,
especially where you've got businesses where they have a lot of management fluidity, like the NHS and things like that. And
yeah,
I constantly hear from friends who've been in the NHS for years, and they say, we get these managers, they come along, they try to make the same changes over and over again, just with a
yeah,
slightly different face on it. But if that insight was there, and if we had the AI to go, actually, have we tried this before and how did it go? Then we can learn from the past, and not keep repeating our same things.
yeah,
But like the AI can analyze an org structure, but it's not going to be able to tell you who the real influencers are, who change managers need to actually bring on board to add that value. It's never going to have that kind of insight because that's all the stuff that people will never put on paper.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good insight. And leveraging it as a tool based on data, increasingly more data, but then using that as a navigation aid rather than just a direct unconscious line, hopefully gives us more options within that. Good
That
stuff.
the deeper insight always comes from humans. We'll never lose that human touch, particularly in change management and change leadership.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't,
Well,
we
humans are
can't
all
run
about
away from
change.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. So here's a bit of a segue into more of a standard question that I asked. So thinking about the past and data and maybe what you've collected through awareness within yourself, if you were to start out in business again today, knowing what you know now, and if you had the option, is there anything you'd change?
I think this one's going to sound really obvious to a numbers-minded person, but show more interest in the numbers earlier and become commercially aware earlier.
Yeah.
So as a storyteller, my natural tendency is on the words rather than the numbers. And getting to the point more quickly and getting the numbers side of the story earlier in the process helps get that buy-in, especially since moving into financial services. Everyone's an accountant in financial services, and just becoming commercially aware has hugely supported that benefits realization piece and change
Right.
as well. And it's something I just wish I'd done much sooner in my career.
Yeah.
So I would say anyone starting out, if you're not a numbers person like I wasn't 20 years ago, find someone you look up to in finance and ask them to mentor you and learn what EBITDA means and learn all of that as soon as you can, because it makes, once you've nailed it, it makes such a difference later,
Yeah.
especially if you're wanting to get into change in projects.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You mentioned storytelling there. So, well, I guess where you are now is you've got all that information, but being able to apply that 20 years ago maybe would have smoothed out some of the bumps in the road leading to here, which kind of begs the existential question. Would you be here without it? So we can't change it, but I'm guessing from like the story arc, being closer to numbers within the people that you're working with and influencing and helping make change, that enriches the story. There's more meaning making for that audience in the story in relation to the information going into it. And for that audience, the numbers around EBIT and forecasting and all the other good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the old hearts and minds thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you've got a group of people where their logic's based on the numbers, I've always been very good at the hearts piece, the minds piece. The financial logic side of the minds piece was the place where I've just had to put the effort in to get to know
yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And something within there of knowing your audience as well then. So who's receiving the story?
Yeah.
What outcome do you want from that? And then being able to shape it with the appropriate information, which is the minds. And then the context for that shifts based on your audience.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's
Excellent.
definitely made the difference. And I guess another thing, because one of the challenges I find just day to day, even now, is because change management and management, I wear both hats, but they're both very different disciplines. And I
Yeah.
think making sure that you've educated the business about the difference between those disciplines and protecting my focus and not spreading myself too thin and knowing when I need to be wearing one hat versus another. And I think the way that I've made that work, particularly since starting coeo, and I think the best thing any business can do is train all of you managers to be change managers. And at the very least, for them to understand and appreciate the underlying principles of change management.
Yeah.
Because that was the first thing I did when I joined coeo, and it's really helped bring teams on board with less friction and gain buy-in when we've identified who those change champions are.
Mm.
Um, and doing that activity has actually put the business in really good stead for the future. And it's allowed great change to continue, even when I've been stepping away for a while. So when I joined the business, I was leading change at the highest level, reporting at the CEO, and the senior leadership team understood that effective change management is going to have to deliver both that foundational culture and the overarching governance across all directorates.
Yeah.
But with the expansion of our product suite into the wider European group, I've actually stepped into the technology space to work on that as our main focus with our Chief Technology Officer. But instead of that creating a gap, it's actually empowered other directorates and managers in the business to lead their own change initiatives off the
Yeah.
back of the foundations that we'd already put in place. And they're doing a fantastic job. And
Yeah.
it's really good to see.
That sounds really good. It sounds like more of a cultural shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's another mistake that I guess people make when they assume that once if you change a process or something, they assume that once the process has changed, the organization's changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I guess, another lesson that we can all take from that. It never stops. You always need to do that. Take stock, look at what you've achieved.
Yeah.
As a team, pat yourself on the back as a project team, but do the benefits realization, do the lessons learned, have those reflections.
Yeah.
I mean, and will use what we've all of the materials. That's another place we use AI at the moment, is that we'll use it as a conversation starter for those lessons
Mm.
learned, because sometimes those conversations you've never got somebody coming in, oh well, I want to talk about this. Really, it's usually they're a bit hesitant to tell the truth and be be as what's the word, candid as
Yeah,
they would like to be by the end of the session. But I think when you say, oh, well, we've put this through Copilot, and Copilot's actually said that these are the lessons it thinks we've learned on
yeah,
this project. What do you think about this? Is there anything missing? Is there anything else we need to think about? And then not only do you get the insight and a little bit deeper, you also get people buying into whatever solutions we come up with to prevent those same things happening in future because everyone's been part of that conversation.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I think
Well,
AI is great for conversation starters, but
yeah,
it's the people that always need to finish it up.
yeah, definitely. And it feels like there's a connection between using that approach for the lessons learned and using AI almost to make it a little bit more agnostic rather than personal, but then weave that into the story anyway. So in effect, what you're doing there is working from that data again and applying it to the appropriate audience within the lessons learned and sending it through that cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same with when somebody can have an idea on, and it might just be a one or two liner come in as a change request ticket, and we'll have a look at it.
Yeah,
And the AI might say, "Oh, we think that this is a good approach to taking it," and then you put it in front of the team, and they go, "Oh no, we can actually do it. We can do it. It's a good idea, but we can do it like this." And then it gives
yeah,
them
yeah,
the prompt to
yeah,
then think about what it's sometimes good for its wrongness because people don't feel they feel less bothered about challenging
yeah.
the AI than they do about necessarily challenging another person.
Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
it's almost the spark for the touch paper. And then being able to hold that space with the trust of the people, and it sounds like the culture you've built around it's uh, a really incredible way of doing things and helping people stay slushy.
Yeah, absolutely. We love staying slushy.
Yeah, I like that. Well, we're about at time, so thank you, thank you so much for being on the show. Some of those insights are really fantastic. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Just message me on LinkedIn. It's the best way to contact me at the moment. It's just
Fantastic.
Jules Sharples.
Good stuff. We'll add a link in the show notes, but thanks again for being on.
Thanks
And I
for having me.
recommend everybody connecting. And as a reminder to everybody listening, this show is brought to you by the Get It Done framework. So if you've got no shortage of options, especially around tech and business change, but need to get clear on where you actually are before your next move, this can help. And the way is the Opportunity Explorer, a 1 hour session with a senior pair of eyes that gets the problem out of your head and into something you can work with. You come away with a clear next step. And if that sounds useful right now, the link will be in the show notes. But until the next episode, remember the obstacle becomes the way. And with this episode in mind, stay slushy.